Ah, yeah. Let's get that out of the shot. What's up, guys? How we doing? Happy New Year. Happy 2021. I hope you all had a wonderful New Year's Eve. I mean, thank God 2020 is over. That was a whole thing. But I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to slowly start ramping into the new year. And I wanted to start by talking about double deciding and double observing. So this is the first of what is going to be 2 videos. This first one is obviously titled "Why You Need to Learn How to Double Decide," and the next one is going to be "Why You Need to Learn How to Double Observe." And I want to focus on this angle for a couple of reasons. The first reason is I think it's important, as I have been saying for years and years and years. It's all about balance. It's all about being able to go back and forth, pinch hit, do a bunch of different things, well enough so that it doesn't fuck you. That's really the key. And the easiest way to access this is to look at the 2 functions in the middle, right? So whatever you have in the middle, whether you're a glass lizard or not, the functions that are in the middle, they're going to be at scale pretty balanced. Because again, they're in the middle. It's not this huge imbalance between your top function and your bottom function. And that's just sort of the way, sort of default wiring wise, that's just sort of how you can kind of navigate the world. And it's one of the reasons that this isn't happening as much. But I remember like in the beginning of OP back in, early 2018, one of the things that people got consistently wrong, myself included, was the observer decider coin. Now, part of that is that there just wasn't nearly enough information out there. They hadn't talked about it enough. And so we were all just kind of like poking in the dark. And like you didn't have to be in the class to get tight. It was the Wild West in, early 2018. But one of the things that I remember hearing and, them talking about is the reason overall that so many people, again, myself included, will it not so much even type themselves upside down, although that certainly can happen, but really getting your own observer decider coin off. The reason that it's so easy for that to happen is you have a real awareness of your 2 middle functions. Because you can see the light and the dark in them, what ends up happening is you end up thinking that is your greatest problem in life. Which, again, this is not everybody. And again, now that there's enough information out there and we can triangulate and they're talking about like track your behavior and this and that, whatever. That seems to be happening less. But, so like for me, I thought that my biggest problem in life was people and tribe connection. And again, let me be clear, because I am a glass lizard, that's not untrue. Like as sleep lasts, double activated on the TE, double activated on the play. Like I am going to be more cranked up. So I am going to be more EJ-ish than, someone like Dave, right? So Dave, he's got the sleep and the blast and the play, doubling up on his savior blast, doubling up on his lead NI in a savior state. He's got the single activated savior in the middle, double activated demon in the middle. Like that motherfucker is balanced in the middle. And so he's going to have these massive, I think that he, even more than Shan, is when you'll see like this sort of like 99-1 ratio of first function to last function, just because he's so ridiculously balanced in the middle that you got to pay for it somewhere. Again, that's just sort of how the wiring and the math all works out. But like I know that for me, I've always been really, really aware of social dynamics since I was little kid. My mom said that I was really aware of this as a little kid. I've always been hyper attuned to the tribe game and the social game, and like in particular, like who's the authority figure in the room. I've never been in a room where I didn't know who was in charge. That just never fucking happened in my entire life. And I've always been really aware of like, oh, okay, so this person has the title of being in charge, but this person is actually, controlling the room. I tell this story. It's one of my favorite stories. It didn't even happen to me, but it's so emblematic of what I consider to be like my own double decide, like the fact that I resonate with this so much, is to me an indication that like I really can see as a double decider, IJ, my TE and my FI in the middle. I really can see like, oh shit, yes, there is this dynamic at play. And I'll tell you the story very briefly and then I'll get on with it. So there's a show called Hamilton, right? It was very, very popular. Still is pretty popular from what I can tell. But they were doing the show in Chicago. They were rehearsing for it. It was the first out-of-town sit-down production of Hamilton. And there was a woman in there named Karen Olivo, wonderful singer. She won a Tony for the 2010 revival of West Side Story. She was in The Heights. Like she's a fucking baller. And as can happen in any rehearsal setting, any office setting really, but like you really feel it in rehearsals. Sometimes like when it's just like there's a lot happening and a lot of chaos and competing opinions and just feelings and emotions, and we're making art and we're dancing and we're sweating and we're feeling shit. Like there's just a lot of energy in the room. Shit can get a little loose and it can get a little inefficient and sloppy. And when you have so little time to put together a show, that can be a real liability. So, but and this happens so often, but I just remember this particular version of it, the way it was told to me, is a lot of different voices. And then Karen Olivo, because she was in the cast, but she's fancy. Like, Karen Olivo's name, like she is a celebrity in the theater community. And you'll see this a lot with kind of anybody. You watch the next, again, obviously this doesn't really work on Zoom as well, but like the next time when we finally get to be together with other people, watch the next time you're in a meeting and shit's getting kind of chippy. Watch for the person who isn't running the meeting, like, the person who's attending the meeting. There will always be one person, almost always, and what their job is they know like, oh fuck, I need to throw the energy to the person in charge. And that's what this woman did. Everybody's talking, and all she did is she was like, shoomp. And she was just like, I'm going to make eye contact and throw every ounce of energy that I can at the choreographer. And within 5 seconds, the entire room is like, foomp. Oh, we're supposed to be paying attention to this person. Got it. Cool. And I bring up that story because that to me is a great example of double deciding. And it's being able to see, again, anybody can do this. And certainly, an EJ or an IP or whatever can obviously do this and recognize the tribe dynamic. But what I love about that particular anecdote is you have this very double decidery behavior, which is going, okay, I can see the spectrum of the tribe, the authority figure, the rankings of the thing. It isn't an all or nothing thing. It's not like, you have queen bee and all of the underlings. It's being able to recognize, like, okay, right, I'm not the choreographer. I'm not nominally the authority figure, but I have more status than this other person. Okay, and like I can really see where I fit in the tribe, and I'm not super weird about it, and I can recognize, oh right, in this moment, my job is to throw the attention to the person who they're not recognizing is in charge. So let me at the very least be like, you know what, if nothing else, I see you. I'm paying attention to you. I'm going to throw my energy, right? And the reason I love that as a double decider anecdote is because in order to do that, you have to not only be able to see the entire spectrum of the tribe, the whatever, you also can't care that much about it. So I was doing a show. This was, 4.5 years ago. This was back in 2016. And it was a John Denver show, and I was John Denver, and in a lot of ways, I was like the lead, whatever the fuck, right? But I figured out really, really quickly that the only way to make this show work, just because of the way that the show itself was structured, is I was like, the audience thinks I'm John Denver. I am set up like I'm basically cast in the role of John Denver. So they're always going to be looking at me, whether I want them to or not, whether I'm doing anything interesting or not. And so I figured out that my job on stage, because I had been endowed with this like John Denver energy, was to go, okay, anytime I am not, just because I'm not singing or saying words or talking to the audience does not mean that they're not looking at me. Just because of how the show works. That's just how humans work, right? Whoever is the authority figure, the top dog, the alpha, the whatever the fuck you want to call it, that is where the majority of people's energy is naturally going to go. And it's the job of the person in that position, whether you are nominally the authority figure or if you're just a cast member, to say, okay, I know that people are going to be watching me. So my job in that show was just to know the show in and out, and to just basically tell the audience where to look at any given moment. Because what's going to happen, so there are 5 people on stage, there's a bunch of people doing a bunch of things. One person's playing the piano, I'm playing the guitar, this person's playing bass, and this girl's playing guitar, and she's walking across the stage, and this other guy, he's playing guitar over on the other side of the stage. There's lights going, like there's shit happening. And so most of the time, the audience is going to be following the thing that's happening, right? Like, they're going to be following the bouncing ball. They're going to be following Allison as she's walking across the top of the stage, on the little lifts, and she's, singing about, what the fuck song was that? Oh, it was like some song about farming. It was great. Again, fucking love John Denver. So most of the time, the audience is going to be following the bouncing ball. But in the absence of that, sometimes they get distracted. They look at their watch. Their kid elbows them. They have to shush their kid, and they have to come back. They're like, where the fuck do I look? They're going to look at the person who they think is in charge, the person who's, pulling a lot of that focus and a lot of that energy. And it's the job of that person to know to always throw the energy to wherever it needs to go. So in my case, I spent what feels like, so it was a 2-hour show with an intermission. So an hour and 45 minutes of me being on stage. I had the focus for maybe 15 to 20 of those minutes. Maybe. I had a couple of songs, a couple of little features, but the majority of the time, all I was doing was just throwing focus to that person and then to that person and then that person. The track in my head and my choreography was just telling the audience where to look at any given time. Like I was the spotlight operator on stage, and you just point, you're like, okay, so I knew that, when Allison finishes her thing, then Maggie's going to start singing. So I mentally need to go, okay, so I'm going to follow her here, follow her here, follow her here. And then right as she's done, I need to throw my attention to Maggie and tell the audience, hey, this person's done singing. Now this person is going to sing, and the whole audience's energy is going to go, shoop. Oh, look, there's something to look at over here, right? Now, maybe they'll figure that out themselves, but the point is that there's gonna, it's the opposite, weirdly, of, if you can't find the child in the room, then you are the child, right? Or if you can't if you can't figure out who the sucker is at a poker table, then you're the sucker. This is the opposite of that. If you can't figure out who the person in the room throwing energy and direct, like basically doing like you're like an energetic air traffic controller, right? You're telling the room where to look with your body language, your energy, your intention, your emotional whatever, right? If you can't figure out who the person in the room's job that is, then it's you. And oftentimes, simply being aware of the fact that that's a thing makes it you. It's fucking bananas to me. I mean, like, genuinely confusing how few people understand this dynamic. Because we've all been in, here's the thing. We've all been in shitty meetings before, right? I remember one meeting, this is the first and last terrible meeting I was ever in. As an adult, like obviously, when I had summer jobs as a teenager, you can't fucking do anything. But like as an adult, like going to meetings and doing the things when there's a real collaboration, happening. This is the first and last terrible meeting I was ever in. And it was a phone meeting, so I couldn't do anything about it. But I remember I worked for a tutoring company at the time, and we had our monthly we had our monthly curriculum discussion panel, jerk off, whatever the fuck, right? And in theory, it's a really good idea, right? You get the whole company together, you get the educational consultants on the phone, who are basically the salespeople on the phone with the tutor managers from all the different branches, with the curriculum director, and all the directors, and you talk about like what initiatives are happening for the next month. Let's talk about, are there any new materials that we need to acquire? What are the logistics? Telling all the directors to then tell the office assistants. Like, it's a really good idea for a meeting in theory. But I remember this is the first, I had just gotten promoted, and it was me and this other guy who also just got promoted. And we were on the phone together, and it was like a 10-person conference call. And it was wild to me that nobody was directing the meeting. And when I say directing the meeting, I don't mean setting the agenda and doing the blaster do, right? Because there was somebody doing that, but there was nobody, and there was sort of like that person was feebly trying to keep people on track. But that's not how this works. It's not about saying, hey guys, all right, hang on. All right, let's focus up. Let's do the thing. Because as soon as you say that, as soon as you tell people that they need to focus, you have lost them. You have lost them. That's just how the fucking thing works. I don't know how else to put it like that. But there was nobody in the room energetically like plowing forward with the conversation and being like, again, sending the signal to the tribe, hey, this meeting is progressing. I am pushing this train forward. Y'all better hop the fuck on or you're going to be very lost. So all of these different little things, right? So we have the anecdote about being in the rehearsal and sort of directing the energy towards the director, right? Then we have the anecdote about me being on stage, throwing focus to all of the different people, right? Then we have the anecdote here about being in the meeting and not having somebody pushing the train forward. And the reason why all three of those, to me, is like, this is what double deciding is because when you are double deciding, you don't have the luxury of getting stuck in tribe ranking. You'll be aware of tribe ranking, but you're not stuck there. You're not freaking out about it. You're not going to be fixed about that, right? Because you don't have time. This is back in early 2018. I was talking to Dave. I just gotten typed, and I was ranting again. The way I don't know what the questionnaire looks like now, but it's pretty similar. But sort of, they wanted you to get like, I think it was like question 4. It was like, what's something at your job that pissed you off? Or, because they wanted to get you into like a ranty sort of state. They wanted to induce that so that they can see like what you spike about. Makes total sense if you're trying to type somebody. Great. And I remember I started ranting about this theater company I was working for. And I was like, this is fucking nonsense. This show that I just did, it was the dumbest fucking show I've ever done. Let me talk you through how fucked up the logistics were. And I went through all the things about like they fucked up the cars and they like assigned me to be in a car with 2 other people who I never shared scenes with, which meant that we could never actually sync up and be at rehearsal at the same time. And I told them this, and they're like, don't worry about it. And basically were like, that's a dumb thing to worry about. Why are you concerned about transportation? And I'm like, oh my fucking God, I don't have a car here. I cannot be responsible for my own transportation. I have to rely on you. Oh my fucking God, how is this happening? I was flipping out about all the logistics and the things and the structure and the chaos and the organization and all of that. And what Dave said is, he's like, listen, as much as you think that you freak out about people, you're actually ridiculously calm because you don't have time to freak out about who's getting what. Because your brain is just constantly looking for the bigger picture, like the organization, how the schedule works and the logistics and the this and the that. He's like, you're so focused on that. You don't have the bandwidth to give a shit that much about the individual people. And once he started to explain that to me, and again, like that really is one of the things that I've been, processing over and over and over again. Because as somebody, like I have Demon FI, it's single activated. I'm super cranked up. Yes, it's in the middle, but like, boy, oh boy, do I have like EJ issues in a lot of ways. And I was, the more I really think about that, the more I'm like, oh yeah, no, of course, like our brains, my brain, anybody's brain can only handle so much information. Like we can only solve so many problems at once, right? And again, the way that I have observed the human brain to work and just society to work, we're always going to find something to, you know, try to solve or complain about or use our saviors or whatever the fuck. But we don't have an infinite capacity for that, right? So we're going to be we have to be at some point, especially in this day and age, infinite information. We have to be choosy about where we direct our energy. And so I titled this video, "You Need to Learn to Double Decide." And again, the next video I make is going to be called "You Need to Learn How to Double Observe," right? So I can kick my own ass a little bit, right? Because you need to be able to double do everything. Now, not saying that you're like I as an IJ, I'm never going to magically turn into an EJ. All things considered, like when you when I get to a problem that is outside of my control and comfort zone, right? If it's an unfamiliar problem, it's something that I haven't seen before, haven't dealt with before, or it's just like a large issue because I'm growing into different kinds of problems, my first tactic is going to be, okay, let me single observe my way through this and double decide, right? But I think it is really, really important that, especially for the EJs and the IPs out there, the real value in being able to double observe is beyond just like, yay, growth mindset, yay, not being stuck in life, do. Like, again, obviously that's great. But the real benefit to double deciding is it's such an easy way to, I think it's a really easy way to make progress. They were talking in, oh god, I think this was a YouTube video. They've also done classes and stuff on this, but I remember this as a YouTube video. They're like, we see a lot of like the people who say that they are stuck in life tend to be single observer double deciders. Because where they get stuck is they're like, if it's EP, it's like, I feel like I'm going from one thing to the next thing, and I can't, like, I have this addiction to novelty, and I can't actually take the time to build something, right? And on the IJ side, it's like, I'm stuck in this IJ box, and I'm trying to get out, but I don't know how to get out of this IJ box. Right, it's a different kind of stuckness, but it's still stuckness. But on the flip side, so if you're an IG or an EP, you're going to be very aware of your stuckness, or you're going to be super aware of the opposite, or you're going to be like, I'm fucking barreling through, like doing my thing, kicking ass, doing everything. Nothing can get in my way, right? So you really get those extremes with the control and the chaos, right? And the reason I say that it's important for the EJs and the IPs to work on their double deciding is because it's a really easy way to make the problem about the problem. One of the big things that they say in relationship counseling or whatever, is sort of like the easiest way to reframe fights, right? If you get a couple and they go to couples counseling and they start, like, we argue all the time and I can't. This is always like, we always end up going at each other for just seemingly no fucking reason all the time. What's going on? So the sort of level 0 advice that tends to be given is it's not you versus me, it's us against the problem. And once you get past like the initial layer or two of pettiness, where it's like, okay, well, we have a problem that you keep going out to clubs every night and getting your dick wet. Like, that's okay. It's not really us against the problem, guys. That's not what's happening. But like, again, once you get deeper than that and deeper than that and deeper than that, when it's like, listen, we have our problem is that we both have these extramarital urges, or we both don't feel secure in what we are building together, or whatever it is, right? By just being able to reframe it as us versus the problem, it makes the problem vastly more manageable, and it gets you out of that, like those feelings of pettiness and chippiness. Not all the time, but as like a first resort, you can get a lot of mileage out of that. So for instance, like let's say you are you're at work, right? And let's say you're a single decider, and you find yourself being like, oh my God, Linda's such a bitch. Why is Tracy so wonderful? I wish I could work on Tracy's team. Linda's being awful. Hannah is a great coworker, but she has other responsibilities, and I really want to work with that person, but I don't like that person, and that person was right. That's a lot of moving parts, because now you got to like get multiple different like humans on board, and they got their own shit that they're working through, and like it's just a lot, right? But if you can reframe it as, okay, forget the people, forget Tracy being great and Linda being a bitch, and I want to work with Hannah and not, Carrie, whatever it is, right? If you can say, okay, leaving the people out of it, what work do I want to do? What do I want to build either here at this company, for my career in general, big picture? Like let's get into Thingland a little bit. And then through that exploration, so like for me, and again, let me be clear, I'm not saying this is always going to work out. There are lots and lots and lots of times where you will end up being like, oh, fuck, this actually isn't a solvable problem, and I need to peace out. That absolutely can and does happen all the time, for sure. But I remember this was sort of on my last gasp of being, at my old tutor. This was, again, back in 2018. Shit wasn't really going well, and I was unhappy, and we ended up having to like fire a lot of people, and I was sort of the go-to person, but I wasn't in charge, and I had like 17 different responsibilities that I had to sort of fulfill between other people asking me for shit all the time. But the 17 things, there were never any deadline. Like it was just a chaotic shit mess, right? And again, this is not me being like, look at that chaos, oh my God, and expecting other people to, do the chaos for me. Like I would actually just ask, be like, hey, authority figure, what's your timeline on this? And then said authority figure, I kid you not, would get mad at me for asking when they wanted something that they asked for. I kid you not. And I was like, how? No, but if you ask for something, I need to know when you want it. Because here's the thing. If you want it by this afternoon, I can get it to you this afternoon. But I need to know, like, is this the thing you want a month from now? Is this the thing you're putting on my plate just to get it off your mind? Like, give me something. And again, it ended up being a bad fit. But what sort of got me out of that was the fact that I didn't get stuck in Linda's the worst boss ever. I wish that Tracy were still my boss. Why can't so-and-so be a thing? And like, again, like making it about the people, be like, she's a terrible boss. That's a really hard way to solve it. That's a really hard way to try to solve problems. And what ended up solving the problem for me was being able to say, okay, pausing, backing up, let me calm the fuck down for a second. Systematically, thing wise, what's the issue? Oh, the issue is that there's a lack of clarity and structure in the company as a whole. Like, it's just a very EPIP kind of culture that we're moving towards. Got it. Great. No harm, no foul. I just can't be, I will not do well in EPIP culture. I just won't. Unless my job is to take their EPIP culture and bring it more towards the middle and make it more IJ-EJ-ish. Great. Fantastic. But I'm not going to thrive in EPIP culture. It's just never going to fucking happen. It just is not. And by making the problem about the culture, the system, the structure, the schedule, the desk organization, like, find things to be mad about. If you are an EJ or an IP. Again, next video, observers, don't listen to this part because we already do this too much anyway. The only thing you're ever allowed to be mad at are printers, because fuck printers. That printer is actually very nice. That printer is very nice. I probably shouldn't be mean to that printer because it has actually been very good to me. But generally speaking, fuck printers. Fuck printers. But if you are, EJIP and you're feeling stuck, the easiest way to get out of that is say, okay, how can I sort of induce an observer freak out? How can I make this problem about the thing that I'm usually pretty balanced about, right? And by doing that, that will naturally sort of, so if you have these 4 parts, it's like I have my DE up here, my DI down here, and my OE and my OI are in the middle. If you can start to try to rotate that wheel a little bit so that your deciders are closer to the middle, then it's going to keep you from getting stuck in pettiness. And on the flip side, it's going to keep you from getting stuck in a situation that's actually very toxic, but where you feel beholden to a person. One of the greatest strengths and greatest weaknesses of the double observers, especially the ones, so if you're like a consume play EP, if you're a blast sleep IJ, right, or sleep blast, is the ease with which they just don't get stuck on people. They just don't. And even I'm double activated on my TE. I have big old EJ syndrome in a lot of ways. But even I can be like, oh yeah, no, that person is being a dick. Like, this relationship is not serving me. Bye. And trusting that you can just find another human to align with, right? Romantically, professionally, personally, familially, whatever the situation is. It's like where I feel that my double deciding shines is because I'm able to see, the dark and the light in people, right? Again, because they're in the middle, I can sort of see, I can see the values and I can see the logic and I can see you and I can see me and, I see the light and the dark and okay, yes, like I mostly see the whole spectrum when it comes to TNF in a lot of ways as a single observer and double decider, right? And so by being able to do that, I can go, oh no, this relationship is not working for me. Like, I can't work for this person. And that really is sort of what it came down to by being able to go, okay, this is not a culture that I can be in. This is not a healthy environment for me. And then being able to say, you know what? I've worked for this woman for 9 years. In varying degrees, it's been fine. But given the present circumstances and whatever, I got to leave this tribe behind. I got to go find a new tribe. And trusting that, like, when I go to try to find a new tribe, like, I can double decide my way into it, right? I can go, you know what? I'm leaving this person that I'm aligning with. There are lots of other people out there. I can make it work with a lot of people, right? And so where I see the EJs and the IPs get really, really stuck is if they're like, this is a bad situation, but like, where else am I gonna go? Like, who else is going to love me? Right? And you're like, lots of people? I'm confused. This isn't a problem. You're fine. It's not going to be fun. Like, it's of course going to be very painful to leave a relationship or leave a job that, if you've, had the same boss for 9 years and you finally realize, oh my God, I can't make it work anymore. I have to leave. Of course it's going to be painful. Of course it's going to be terrible. But where the double deciders really excel is they're comfortable saying, this relationship isn't working for me. I need to find a new job. I need to leave you behind. No harm, no foul, but this is just no longer a good human fit. And then find something else, right? The EJs and the IPs will often, especially if they're like at the beginning of their hero's journey and like still very, very much in townsfolky land, they'll be like, but this is the only person who's ever hired me before. Nobody else will. This is the one person who took a chance on me. And they hired me when nobody else would. And I have to stay here. I have to stay beholden to this person, even when it doesn't serve me. Right? And again, there are a number of different ways that manifests, right? The EJ problem is, it's, well, I can't leave this person because my identity isn't good enough without them. Or it's an IP. And this is something I've seen a lot, weirdly in relationships, like romantic relationships, is where an IP will get involved in a relationship that's like turbo toxic. And again, anybody can get into a toxic relationship, but I've seen like a number of IPs, lead FI in particular, where it's just like, oh my God, this person's a legit sociopath to you. They're fucking like that. This is like legitimately abusive behavior. Like, they're not good to you. But the IP is like, nope, I have decided that is the only human who is worthy of me because I'm hot shit. And you're like, really? Oh boy, okay. And that can end up being a different kind of stuckness, right? And so the reason that being able to double decide is so important is because the world changes. People change. People evolve. Systems change. Institutions change. The world spins madly on. That's just the way shit works. And, being able to feel comfortable checking in with the T and the F and the tribe and the me and like, here's the thing. The changes that I didn't like were changes that I initially kind of championed for. Right? And I was like, yeah, I see where we were trying to go, but I didn't want to go this far with it. And, with this component plus this component plus this component, this has now grown into something that I don't want to be a part of this anymore. Like, we're moving way away from the thing that I took the promotion to do more of. And the thing I took, again, just to bring it all back around, the thing I took the promotion to do back in 2017, I was like, I love being an office lady. I am a fucking baller office lady. I am so good at being an office lady. You have no fucking idea. I fucking crushed the office lady job. And I was like, I just want to do that all day while still auditioning. I pop in and out, do this and that. occasionally I'll film something, whatever. But like I love this office lady life. Like IJ, love the stability. Blaster, I love the socialization. I love the talk and the meeting. Like I love all that shit. And got away from that. And the reason that I was able to get unstuck from my position, and unstuck from this company that turned into something that was no longer serving me and that I didn't want to be a part of, was because I didn't get stuck in, well, what if nobody else hires me? What if nobody else likes me? What if my skill set is so unique that only this company is the only play, not even this company, like this, what if this one person is the only person who will ever value me for me? And these other people who count on me, what are they going to think of me if I leave? Like, you can get really stuck in that way. And if that's something that's happening to you, and you're like, but I know that this is not the right situation, but I don't know how to get out. By focusing on the things and doing a little bit more of the double deciding and saying, okay, I have wants and needs, they have wants and needs, do they align? And really making it us versus the problem. It's going to break some stuff open in a way that it's potentially very uncomfortable. But is really, really important if you are in a position of being really stuck, trusting that, people are not the end all and be all. People are great. People are important. We are on this planet to connect with others and to grow and give 100%. But on an individual level, we don't need to be so black and white and super extreme about this one person is the person whose affection I need, whose approval I need, or I am super significant, I am the shit, I need to find a group of people who will fully embrace me and respect me and love me, and that's the only thing that matters in life, right? It doesn't have to be like that. That's certainly a component of it. It's a big component, but aim for 80-20, right? Just to start. And then you can slowly start to get it to 70-30 and being able to, I'm not saying you're going to be able to be a super crazy double decider like Dave is, but getting a little more balanced with it, being able to say, okay, yes, I would like this one person to validate my existence. But at the end of the day, listen, options 2 and 3 are not that bad. Like, no, it's not the number one person or the number one boss or the number one, in crowd clique group of people. But like, listen, they ain't shit. Options 2 and 3, they got some good shit too. So maybe I'm gonna check out options 2 and 3. And trusting that anything that isn't number one, that it's not one or nothing. It's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and then from there it pitters off a little bit, right? Starting to build that mindset is extraordinarily helpful. It's super, super useful, and ultimately it'll help you navigate what could be potentially very tricky, very painful situations. That'll help you just sort of swim through them and stick with the stuff that really matters, and ultimately leave the stuff that's no longer serving you. All right, that's all I got for today. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will talk to you guys later. I'll catch you guys, probably not tomorrow, but in a couple of days, I'm going to try to do the, why you need to learn how to double observe, because I definitely could use, that's just going to be me talking to myself a lot, learning how to double observe. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye. No, and there it is.